To say that a student has an excused absence or tardiness means that they are pardoned from the repercussions that would come about if they had acted with no justification or excuse. To put a limit on the number of times that a person may be late or absent from school with a valid excuse is absolutely absurd.
Contrary to what Kant has said, by accepting the benefits and privileges of the school's contract, it is implied that the student is given consent and must abide by the rules set in place by the school.
I am in agreement with Locke, for the most part. If one student is allowed to be late without disciplinary actions being taken, who's to say that all students should be allowed to as well? There will be students coming in late for no reason at all.
Well, if the student has a letter or proper excuse that comes directly from a doctor or parent, then their reasons for being late are justified. It is one thing to be late with no excuse, but here the student may be in extenuating circumstances that are beyond their control.
And what if the note is bogus? What if the parent feels bad for their poor child's lateness and simply whips up a little note saying that his or her child was at an appointment, when in reality the student had just slept in? Or perhaps there was no parent involved at all, and the note is truly a counterfeit. Obviously, there are hundreds of ways of using Kant's logic to get around the rule completely.
I agree with Rawls. Many students may have unworthy notes that do not justify their lateness. There's a big difference between a medical emergency and missing the bus. The rule specifically says 15 occurrences of lateness. These students must know that they can take advantage of the rule. What average student would be late 15 times?
And what about the students that aren't faking the notes? Why must they suffer the consequences of the actions of a few students that abuse the power given to them? For a social contract properly based off of trust and justice, both parties must have a mutual trust and belief in each other's actions.
We must remember, gentlemen, that the consequences must be fair. Either both children with legitimate excuses and without are punished, or both are not. You cannot make exceptions. A just society is one based on and revolving around equality.
In addition, by consenting to the school's set principles, the students have given them the power to enforce the rules and consequences that are allied with them.
I addressed the fact that it would be very hard to tell if students are making fake notes or not. But in a judicial sense, is it really fair to punish all students? In the hypothetical situation in which a student has been having regular checkups for a medical condition that requires daily morning appointments, should the student be punished for regular lateness to classes?
If the medical scenario were the case, then the students would be able to provide a note for the appointment. Point being that if the student is in the majority of scenarios, they will be able to retrieve a formal note.
The doctors of the students would have to have a meeting prior to the start of the regular appointments clarifying the circumstances. The doctor would have to be present in order to banish all possibilities.
But you see, the rule says nothing about a doctor nullifying the rules. It clearly stated that excused latenesses or absences, which are the result of missing school time with a doctor or parent's note, will still result in disciplinary action. Even if it was a valid reason, the school, if fully abiding by their own rules, would have to punish the student.
Well, perhaps that is their way of making everyone equal, as they rightfully should, in order to form a more equal society.
By administering the equal penalty treatment to all students, the school is able to shape a controlled environment. Whereas if they allowed fake notes, then many students may give false notes in hopes of being able to sleep in or finish a last-minute project.
Although I very well understand the fear and reality that many students can and may very well be lying to you, in the theoretical ideas of justice...
Whose theoretical ideas of justice? Yours? Because not everyone lives by the same rules of justice, Kant.
Although by complying to the rules of the school, the student has sacrificed their own ideas of what is just and not just. By entering the school's property and purchasing a parking space, the student has given up their rights to coming when they want.
Kant, you should know that our opinions are different in that you base yours upon your social contract. Mine is based on fairness and equality. Your opinions, for example, are loose in how the social contract is different everywhere, unlike mine that are fit to change and adapt to any situation.
My dear fool, you mistake fact for opinion, in this case, which is a novice mistake that I believed that even you were above making.
Locke, I seek your opinion in order to keep me from losing all sense of dignity. Perhaps you will be able to bring Kant here back to earth. He seems to have an inability to see how his logic will leave the scales incredibly unbalanced. Why, I ask, should some students have rights over others? Would you not feel upset if a fellow classmate of yours was able to come into school late regularly without consequences? Come now, Kant, tell me you would not want the same ability as the lucky few.
I agree with Rawls. It's hard to detect valid notes versus non-valid notes. By having all students treated equally, no one is allowed to escape punishment. I must say that I, too, in this situation, would wish for the same ability to skip mornings.
But where, may I ask, does this generalizing end? If we are all held to a standard, or blamed for something that has nothing to do with us, then why must we bear the burden of it?
Who here do you think bears no blame? the person with the medical condition, it is on their behalf that the scales are unbalanced. You might say that it is no fault of theirs that they have such a medical condition, but they are the ones who ask for the special compliances.
But what I'm saying is that you lack the understanding to see that the student with the medical condition shouldn't be grouped in with the student who lied and forged passes. There is no justice or equality in them being persecuted together when one has done nothing wrong.
Yes, I do see your point there. But see, of course, if the rule is in place, then none of these hoodlums would have existed in the first place. No students forging passes for they know the rule, nor students tipping the scales with unfair exceptions, because they too would know the rule.
With the way that this rule stands now, no party will ever be satisfied completely, which defeats the purpose of justice. Justice is meant to satisfy all parties with either a fitting punishment or a formal pardon.
For once, I agree. There is no way any of us will break. I certainly will not back off my opinion. I believe that though each may feel that he knows the truth, none is willing to force other reasonable citizens to live by that truth, even should he belong to a majority that has the power to enforce it. Locke?
I agree. We have very strong ideas on this rule, and it seems that none of us will back down. We will have to be content with the idea that Rawls and I believe that this rule produces an equal environment in the school, and Kant feels that equality is not always the way to go about things, and that the school should create a more just system to punish students being late.